Good morning, Trina.
Sorry. Good morning, Captain Whitaker.
I first started writing this script, I think, in 1998 or 99. I was flying back from Europe for work, and a pilot sat next to me who was like deadheading, they call it. And he started talking to me, and it was driving me nuts, and I couldn't understand why, because I'm a friendly enough guy, but I just didn't really want to talk to this guy. And then it dawned on me, I was like, I don't want to know any commercial pilot. I want to believe that the guy that gets in that chair has it all going.
How you feeling today, sir?
A little tired. Quick turnaround for me, 10 turns in 3 days. Off tomorrow.
I don't want to know that his wife hates him or that he's divorced or like his life is in some desperate, depressed spiral. And then I had that great writer's moment of like, what if?
When a really good screenplay comes along, I have no choice other than to embrace it and go forward with it. I love the fact that sort of the dramatic engine of the movie was the complexity of these characters. They're all sort of shaded gray. There aren't the typical movie good guys, bad guys. The drama of the movie comes from the fact that all the characters in the movie are basically, to some degree, damaged, and that becomes the dramatic engine for the piece.
I have no more moves, all right? It's all on you right now.
I think the overriding story is about a man coming to clarity and finally putting his demons to rest or acknowledging his demons. But along with that, you get a really clear picture of how people inadvertently protect their demons and how other people, while they're trying to protect their own interests, enable people to continue using.
He's a great liar. He's in denial. He's addicted, and he's trying to save his behind through lies.
I've known you 11 years, Whip.
Right.
You want to tell me that you and Trina went to dinner and you had 2 glasses of wine?
No.
Sounds like a nice restaurant. Now, which one was it?
You have to say that. It was an ordinary day, Margaret. I mean, it was an ordinary day. You know me. I was in shape to fly. And ultimately, as he says, he couldn't tell one more lie when he had to look that young woman in the face and decide whether he was going to throw her under the bus in order to save his own behind. He couldn't do it. Plane fell apart at 30,000 feet.
And the airline will try to prove equipment failure.
Right.
We should make the manufacturer responsible. Manufacturer, in turn, is going to try and prove poor maintenance of the equipment by the airline.
Or pilot error.
The framework of the movie is almost kind of like the framework of my own personal life. So for me, it was a lot of me kind of examining my own kind of issues and demons that I've had throughout my life as they relate to this character who is a big character who has like a big event that kind of happens in his life. And it scared me to death. I was like, what is that? And I just put it in a drawer and was like, well, I can't deal with that right now. Because I also was like, that's a movie no one will ever make. There had been a trend for the past few years, I think in the studio system, where they don't really make R-rated dramas. You can point to flowcharts that say, look, as far as business goes, they're not a good business. And it really wasn't until last year or 2 years ago when R-rated dramas started to do business, you know, and get notice, and they started to be the movies that people kind of talked about. And I think that really kind of helped because, you know, I've been trying to make this movie for so long that it was in a curve where this kind of movie was not really in favor.
I'm afraid that I'm going to use again. Do you understand?
And come with me.
There seems to be this kind of unwritten rule that if a movie's a drama, there's no room for comedy.
Honey, could you hustle us up a couple of daiquiris and a cocktail weenie? On second thought, just bring the booze. I brought my own weenie.
And I don't agree. I think that a movie that could be an emotional, dramatic story, there's plenty of room to have comedy in it and action in it and suspense. And this movie has all of that.
Power back! Power back!
The fact that it fell into Robert Zemeckis' hands and he was like, I want to do the movie, it just happens that he's a pilot. So he has a fascination and a mastery of flying that is something that made this material hit him right between the eyes.
Bob was very selective, as he always has been, with what the next project was going to be after we decided to move back into the live-action world. And when this script came along, he said, here's something we should take seriously. And It was a very compelling story. He called it a little character piece.
Devious minds think alike. Don't go. I'll be quiet. It's nice to just sit and smoke with somebody.
That's what drove his interest in the screenplay.
When I read it, I couldn't stop turning the pages. And what's interesting about it is that the suspense in the movie comes from what are these characters going to do? It's not like there's a ticking bomb or a meteor is going to come and destroy the Earth. And whenever you can find a screenplay that's got that kind of depth to it and that kind of complexity, it's a very rare thing nowadays. And to me, that's what kept me turning the pages. I wanted to see how this was going to resolve itself. What was going to happen to Whip's character?
And I gotta tell you, I'm in awe of what you did. The FAA and the NTSB took 10 pilots, placed them in simulators, recreated the events that led to this plane falling out of the sky. Do you know how many of them were able to safely land the planes? Not one.
We were so fortunate on this film to not only be presented with a very compelling screenplay, but also to have probably one of the greatest living actors interested in doing the film.
Denzel was always interested in the screenplay from early on when John Gatins wrote it. And when I read the screenplay, I saw Denzel in the part.
The screenplay came to me about a year or so before Bob was even involved. My agent, the last two screenplays he gave me were Safe House and Flight.
I'm sitting in my little office, and I see my cell phone ring, and I pick it up. I'm like, hello? Because it says, unavailable, and it's like, John Gatins? I'm like, yes? This is Denzel Washington. And I was like, hi. And he said, what are you doing Thursday night? I was like, what am I doing Thursday night? He's like, come have dinner with me.
Flight was a real page-turner and really interesting character.
He and I sat down for like 2 hours, and he told me his reaction to the script and how it had kind of struck many notes for him. So he kind of said, look, this is dangerous material, with a smile, with that kind of Denzel smile. It's like, this is dangerous.
That turned out to just work out, perfectly. And the fact that he is one of the greatest actors that, is alive also just made everything perfect. I mean, it was like a dream come true to be able to work with him in this part.
I don't know how long a period of time it was, but then out of the blue, my agent called and said, Bob Zemeckis is interested. I was like, what? Yeah, he's made many great films, and he hadn't done a live-action film since Castaway, since, 10 years or so. And he's a pilot, so it was perfect.
Cut! Good. Oh, good.
First time I sat down with Denzel to talk about the script, he immediately went to that place because he's an actor who he needs to know it all. So it's like he has a process by which he immediately zeroed in on me and said, so, tell me that story. Yes, I get that you did all of the research about every plane that's ever crashed and what could potentially happen to our plane in the movie. He said, but I really want to know about, what's your personal story? How did you come to this?
John understands that character with the things he's gone through in his life. It's a process. It starts with the writer's first idea, and it ends with the audience. So I was just a part of the process. There's no magic pill I take. And then on the day, you do the best you can, and the director takes the best of it. I got a lot of character work done with Bob and with John working on the script. It was somewhat different than it is in the final film. For example, there was no meeting in prison at the end. That was all added. The AA meetings were added. I think that was Bob Zemeckis' idea. And I really enjoyed the process with John Gatins and Bob.
There was no way this movie was going to happen without the confluence of events, without Denzel Washington grabbing the script with both hands and saying, I want to play this role, and Robert Zemeckis, on the other side of the script, saying, I'm going to make this movie.
What appealed to me about the screenplay was the complexity of this character and how we can be really good at our job and yet be harboring these demons that are inside us. This is what I saw in it that really appealed to me.
It's called The Most Fascinating Person That I've Never Met.
Let's roll, please.
Camera's A-marker.
Let me quote from an investigative summary from 9:34 until 9:42. The events on the aircraft are, again I quote, bold and remarkable. By inverting the plane, Captain Whitaker arrested the descent and allowing him to execute a forced landing in an open field.
For the last decade, I was doing performance capture movies. And the thing that's great about performance capture movies, it's all about performance. So I was completely inspired and ready to get into a movie that's all about character.
I'm amazed at what Bob Zemeckis was able to do in basically 35 days. We only shot 35 days, and he made that movie look huge.
When you cast somebody like Denzel in a part like this, you can expect to see a real willingness on his part to go to some pretty uncomfortable places. You know, everyone wants to be liked and everybody wants to be thought of as the good guy, but he's got to unleash some demons to let this happen and kind of let the audience into the uglier side of us. So I think it will be very impactful to see as an audience member.
You gonna shoot me? Can I come inside?
Yeah, come on inside. I'll shoot you inside.
He's so full and he's so intense and, I mean, brilliant. I mean, and heartbreaking. I mean, there's probably nearly every scene we do, he moves me tremendously. The truth of where he's going with this character is really humbling to watch somebody be that truthful to a character going on quite a ugly kind of journey. You need rehab.
You think I need rehab? So you go to 2 AA meetings, I need rehab. Okay. Hey, look, don't do it. Jesus Christ, don't worry about me, okay? You just worry about yourself. Don't worry about me.
We are off the side of the freeway in Atlanta, Georgia. And as this is also the dawn of a day, it's the dawn of our story. This is the very beginning. This is where we meet our young heroine, so to speak.
Maybe raise it, you'll see your boot heels, and then just walk that way.
Okay.
Kelly Riley, when we saw her performance in a reading, it kind of stopped us all in our tracks. It wasn't someone who, you know, first came to mind, but we were riveted by what she did, and she just seemed sympathetic and real.
I'm just gonna smoke it. I haven't used needles in weeks.
Okay, no needles.
I was very fortunate enough to meet a man here in Atlanta. We called him the drug man. Someone to come in and tell you how to inject dope into your arm. It's a skill, you know, my parents would be proud of. But he, not only did he teach me that side of things, which is very basic, the gift he gave me was to talk about his addiction, and that psychology is what was interesting for me to apply.
We can all relate to it because so many of us have loved ones who struggle with this disease, and we can all relate to it in one way or the other.
Bob Zemeckis treats everybody with such respect and kindness, and this is the first time for me to work over here and to play an American for the first time. And I said, that's it. I'm gonna be lost every time I go and work with another director.
He's just so easygoing and listens really carefully and, you know, asks you to do it again with this little flavor or not. The set is so relaxed and so orderly, it's fantastic.
When we talk about the script and we talk about our characters, it's clear that he also wants to go for the real deeper meanings and really sort of probe what's going on with this character.
So you're drunk?
He's a heavy drinker.
It's great that he's delving into this area where you kind of have to jump in with both feet. You can't lightly wade into this, and he's up to the task.
Yeah, so what we're thinking is, Peter's saying, he's just gonna come up and like, just give you the once-over. He's not gonna extend his hand, he's gonna say, yeah.
I hear you're some kind of pilot.
All right, let's try it with the camera one.
I've worked for a lot of incredible directors, and some of them are really strong with dialogue or character or look. I get it now with Robert Zemeckis. He has all of it. He has the sphere of all of it in his mind.
I really enjoyed the process with Bob, and I would just sit in the room and work it out and work it out and work it out.
Denzel, being the captain of the aircraft, he was very interested in learning what, as a pilot, what are your main responsibilities? Going the walk around, that's the first thing that you're going to do when you get to the airplane. You want to look on the outside and say, what, if anything, is wrong, or do I have anything I need to report to maintenance?
Since September 11th, we couldn't be on the tarmac of a real airport, and we needed a jetway for our story. So we were able to build our own jetway so we could have Denzel's character actually work around a real environment with all the tugs and things that would be on a tarmac.
Hey guys, here we go! Rain!
Bring up the rain, guys.
Action camera!
Because he is a pilot, Denzel felt the need to get in a simulator and train himself so that it became second nature.
We actually did takeoffs and tried to fly in the simulator, and this is what the pilots practice in, so that was great. I mean, I got a great job. You know, I get to drive trains one movie and fly planes the next.
The process began with just setting them in the seat and watching their eyes open up and the amazement of, holy cow, what are all these switches, buttons, and everything for?
Oh, copy. Here we go. There's a visual? Oh, wow. Yeah. I came in about 6-7 weeks ago for my first time, and I had a panic attack because it was so overwhelming with all these instruments and cameras. But slowly over time, I feel really comfortable, and I'm starting to understand which each thing means. And this is my favorite button. That means the seatbelts are off. that means you should put them on. Okay. Altimeter is 2999, cross-check. 2999, cross-check. Lights, pitot heat, de-ice on. Transponders check. Pre-flight checklist complete.
All right. Ready to go, Ken?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. Start pushing the throttles forward here. Brian and Denzel, I think they've done a really nice job because of their openness and their willingness and their anxiousness to learn.
A lot of times in the movie, we take a nosedive to pick up more speed.
Okay, now you want to do that? Go ahead, put it into a nosedive. All right, and then what he calls for is speed brakes.
Speed brakes.
Just pull the back. There you go. Good. But then he says, put the gear down.
Gear down.
Overspeed.
And that's what you would hear in the airplane.
Gears down. I don't think hydraulics is the problem, sir.
We need to dump the fuel. Do it!
In the fiction of our film, there's a mechanical failure. And when you're implying a mechanical error, you couldn't go to an airliner and say, hey, can I use your aircraft? Because then it would imply that they have some faulty systems. So what we did is we recreated our own airline, and then we could build upon that fiction.
We did all sorts of permutations, probably 45 to 50 different names, trying to get a name cleared. And ultimately ended up with Southjet Airlines, which surprisingly wasn't taken by anybody. We have our own credit card like a lot of airlines do, and it says "So Smart," you know, or coffee cup, "So Joe." And all those things that just make it feel like it's familiar and that you've been on this airline.
It's something when you're in a movie, you know, we get to play with all of the best toys and the best props at the highest level. We have an actual airplane there, and we're up in a scaffolding, sort of looking at the entire scene that's laid out before us.
You see this plane, like this, you know, dinosaur, you know, just kind of broken into pieces, like in the middle of this field.
So one thing is we'll go this way until he pulls the binoculars out, and then we'll come back down this way for the rest of the deal.
You can see On initial impact, the left wing hit the ground.
It's our biggest set piece, the largest I've ever built for a key moment in a movie. We not only set our crashed plane out here in the field, but in addition to that, we built a church, which is sitting up on the bluff over here.
Probably one of the biggest challenges of putting this together is the expanse, but getting plane parts from 2 different states, getting them traveled here, the logistics of that, the permits to drive across the country, the cranes that are needed to lift each of these pieces, ways to cut things apart so that they'd be small enough to transport, but then could actually come back together in a way that would make it look like they hadn't been cut apart to transport.
We took a shear that's attached to an excavator, and it's like a pair of scissors, and we just nipped at it, and that's how this break was created.
Let's all join us here for a safety meeting, please. Thank you. We have fire, we have smoke, we have extras, we have stuntmen. We have real Clayton County fire people. They know what to do. If there's a flame that gets out of control, walk away, these guys will take care of it.
Speed, bay marker.
There's a wonderful quote by Francois Truffaut, which I subscribe to, and he said, "A movie that works is the perfect blend of truth and spectacle." And I think this one is that. It's a hopeful, redemptive human story that's sort of wrapped in this very, very intense spectacle. And to me, that's what movies are all about.
And cut.
Looks like some chaos to me.
Every pilot would always say to me, "Do you have a fear of flying?" I'm like, "Yeah, I have a fear of flying. I get it, the physics, it's been explained to me, but I still don't care. I'm in something that's metal, that weighs however many tons, that's going 500 miles an hour, a few miles above the earth. So when I get in an airplane, I'm giving the keys to somebody who's gonna fly me somewhere. It's like, okay, I don't know anything about them. I don't like to get in cars with people who are driving that I don't know. A plane should be no different."
We're at a positive rate.
You know, we have a history of incidents that we could draw from, and we researched them all. And our fictional plane crash is loosely based on a lot of incidents that happened over the last couple of decades.
It's quite terrifying what we're trying to do, recreate this heroic crash landing, which is going through this turbulent air flight, people turning and flipping. It's quite chaotic and fun.
Actually, I'm a pilot, and I love airplanes. And the thing that is interesting about an airplane incident is that we can all relate to it because we live our lives on airplanes. And when something goes wrong on an airplane, it's very dramatic, and it lends itself to great cinema.
Everything about the major flight sequences are storyboarded. They're all done also in the computer as an animatic.
Abbott, flaps! Flaps off, Margaret! Full power! Abbott, trim up! Gear up!
What the previs did is it gave us an idea of what are the shots that Bob wants, and then we could plan and measure and really get everything lined up so that we know exactly what we need to do on the day of the shoot.
Boom that way. Now that's the shot we want. Kid falls, boom, that's good. Now the plane goes back around, and it stops at 90 degrees, and keep going. Stop, cube, 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 keep going.
So that's pretty good. You almost got it, so there. We lost the left engine!
Let it roll. The majority of this is seeing it from the captain's point of view.
We'll flop around and we'll do the whole scene again, just like we did with you on the box. Yeah. So that's my favorite. That's two. Yeah, it's all good.
Denzel, you know, he doesn't want to have someone else in there doing his stunts, and that's great that he approaches it from that point of view. Obviously, if something is going to be too dangerous for him, or we feel that it's dangerous, then we talk to him about it, we work through it, but he's a trooper.
You get in a thing and act like you're flying a plane and hang upside down. It's still being a kid. I mean, that's the fun of it. I got a great job.
And cut. Yeah, I'm talking now.
We have three basic kind of gimbals helping operate our plane. One is motion base. It does not take the full weight of the whole plane, so we have to use just sections when we're filming on that piece. And so we can really get the plane as it starts to invert in the story.
We're at a positive rate. You're up.
Doing the research on our script and going through it with our director, we realized that the plane goes through different layers of trouble. So we've chosen to use softer methods for the buffeting through the clouds, which would be airbags, which we can control that weight and move it up and down and kind of give it the idea that we're floating through clouds.
It's kind of like if you had a 64 Impala that you were looking to hop up and down. Yeah, but you have, what is a huge wide-body fuselage hopping up and down, and I got uncomfortable just watching the monitor. I was like, I just kept saying, I don't want to be on that plane. And everyone's like, we're on a stage. I was like, I don't care. I still don't want to be on that plane.
And right. And center.
In the process of doing my research, there was a black box recording that I read of a plane that had had an incident with their tail. As this plane rolled over on them, the pilots were commenting back and forth, at least upside down, we're flying.
There was an air show where they did take a 707, invert it, and go through a barrel roll and show that, yes, it can happen. Is it something that we, I'm a flight instructor, do we as instructors go through that with the students? No.
We have a more complicated rig. We've been jokingly calling the rotisserie because it's like what you would actually put on a spit over a grill.
Okay, roll the plane, please. On a 3 count. 3, 2, 1.
We have the plane fit into steel rings, and we're able to invert it. And the people inside, hair, necklaces, you name it, it's all reacting to what gravity would really do.
It was a very complicated scene, and hanging about 50 people upside down is time-consuming and scary to do.
And let's go to 90.
Our gimbal has been designed to support the weight of our plane, which is around 8,000 to 10,000 pounds, and then 40 people. We're averaging about 185 per person. We're trying to be kind to some and a little cruel to others, and so 30,000 pounds roughly we're going to turn upside down. Some of it human, some of it just in steel and weight.
And action.
One of the reasons we used a real airplane to roll upside down versus building a fake one ourselves is because they're actually built to withstand the stresses of going upside down. The seats here can actually take a load of 9 to 12 Gs before they give out.
Come on! Dad! Come on, I'm here!
Isn't that great? It's terrifying. Good stuff, Charlie.
We can't put the entire fuselage of the plane, all 17 rows, on this rotisserie at once. So what we decided to do is cut it in half. And then we're actually digitally seaming them together. When we go to shoot the front part of the plane, it's actually going to look like this in front of the camera. So having the green helps Bob to see what his shot is actually going to look like at the end of the day.
The safety advisors that we had on the set said we could hang the people upside down for a minute. And then we had to turn everybody right side up again. And we warned everyone not to eat a large breakfast or a large lunch because you're going to be turned upside down. So luckily we didn't have any accidents.
Thank you. Thank you for coming with us. Hope you enjoyed your flight. What are you talking about? Margaret, full power.
It's pretty horrific what happens, and I don't think they'll be showing it on airplanes in the future.